I wanted to make a video showing how I did my Paracord Sling wrap. I needed to make a shoulder pad for my rifle sling and saw some pretty cool paracord ideas, but none of them really did what I wanted them to. I was shooting for something that would lay flat and wouldn't ruin the sling I bought, or ruin the sling if I ever had to unravel it. I used a stupid slip simple sling from Little Creek Trading and about 50 or 60 foot of cord in what's called a ladder rack weave for this. I used a 1x6 for a jig. I laid the sling out, then I zip tied and stapled it at both ends so that I could get some tension on it for whenever I had to yank on it while I was weaving. So the first thing that I did was I zip tied the cord to the rings on the sling so that it would hold in place. Once I got it in place, I laid the ruler across it. I needed the ruler to make sure that I had enough room once I pulled it out to slide it up and down the sling in case I ever wanted to adjust anything. So to start the weave, I just used kind of the template that I found for the ladder rack. Basically, you're laying two cords along the side of the sling and wrapping along those cords, and it'll just overlap the sling and the ruler as you go. Not going to get into too much detail about the actual wrap itself. You can find plenty of videos on YouTube about that. Basically, once you get it started, it's not too bad, but getting it started out is a major pain. One thing I would point out is make sure that you get this thing good and tight. It seemed like whenever I did my first shot, if I didn't get it tight enough, it would seem like it would want to come unwound after I had left it long enough. But if you get everything on there good and tight and make sure that everything's really just a good tight knot, then it seems like it'll hold up pretty well. So I'm just going to shoot through all of this stuff. There's no point in taking 20 minutes just to watch me weave these couple inches of stuff. Every few wraps you go, definitely stop and make sure that everything's good and tight. Go ahead and put some tension, pull it back up along, get everything as tight as you possibly can. I'm only doing a couple of inches here, but I mean, the pattern pretty much just repeats for as long as you want it to. Once you get down to the end, when you start getting close to those zip ties, things start getting a little tight and it really turns into a pain in the butt. Once you get close enough, go ahead and just cut the zip ties off so you can separate everything and have a little bit more room to work. Yeah, the last couple loops are going to be quite a pain. You can see here that I got a little bit of a knot going on. One thing to watch out for whenever you do a really long run, I had an issue at the end of mine, is it likes to wrap around on itself. Just the amount of tugging and pulling and twisting that you're doing on this, it'll eventually get to the point where it's got a few loops in it. Just kind of work them out as you go. So to finish the end up, what I did is I started wrapping it around that last little loop there you can see, so that I could go ahead and finish it out nice and flat and make it look like it was supposed to be part of the sling. I tried a few different things here, but this is the one that I think turned out the best. So like I say, just kind of wrap it around itself a few times. You can see that the wraps are going in opposite directions. That's gonna be awesome to help out with this later. Kind of try and get them to meet in the middle. See, I had to come back and do a couple more wraps on each side just to get them to meet where they're supposed to. Again, make sure everything's nice and snug. See here, I need one more wrap. Oh yeah, there it goes. So get it nice and flat, pull it tight. I'd leave a couple of inches, but basically you're just going to cut it off. I'm not going to do it on this piece because I want to reuse it later. And then what I did is I took a zip tie after I burned the ends off, and I stuck the zip tie on the cord right at the end of that so that it wouldn't let it come back out. Cut it off. And then I just took that end. This has a lot of extra slack on it, but basically just weave it through. We should have about an inch, inch and a half inside of there. Let's kind of work it through. Pull it tight and you'll have it hidden. Do your best to make that zip tie lay flat. So you can see here in the full part of my sling that I did, you can see where I've got the zip tie hidden pretty well. This one didn't, just because I was in a bit of a rush, but that's the gist of it. So that's more or less how I made my sling.